This time, Hurts going to keep it. A lot of room inside the 30. Jalen Hurts. Hurts looking left, lofting left, going for the end zone. It is caught for the first and goal. Pressure on Hurts. He's in trouble. Has to watch the clock. Rolling end zone. It is caught. Touchdown. Bulls in this league. They do have one sack today. That's it. Here's Hurts on the pull. Has a block. Jalen Hurts, first down and more. Got a great block from the 44. Sanders patiently running. Sanders, good cut. And another block. Sanders still going inside the 40. It's coming. They set it up to Sanders. If he gets by, he can go. Gets by. Sanders cuts it back. Penalty flag. Inside the 20. Inside the 10. Gainwell. Wide open and in for the touchdown. Awful. And their recovery. Sanders on the fake. Instead, Rager has room. Jalen Rager for 6.
Oh, we're live. Listen, we are live. This is our first ever broadcast. Heat Ratio Sports. Okay, for the Eagles show live. We got everybody here. We got Al, we got Mark, we got Jay, we got Dan, we got Chris, we got my man Vance, we got Andre, we got Nick, we got everybody. So welcome everybody. I think we sound all right. Everybody sound okay? Sound check 1 2 1 2. All right. Yes, so listen, this might be the happiest post-game show we have ever done. Okay. Let's be honest. You've seen the highlights. They are the highlights. 32-6. The Eagles, listen, they shut all the skeptics up for 1 week. Now, I don't know what's going to happen next week, but I think we all knew that this was going to be the most winnable game out of the next 3 or 4. And this was the time they needed to take care of business. Now, I want to go over. It's going to be fun. Okay, it's going to be fun. We got 9 personalities here, everybody with different objectives, everybody with a different story. Okay, we all have shows on this network, which is unbelievable to bring us all together as one. And we're all going to dissect this game in different angles, okay? See what your best favorite points were throughout the game, what you expected, what you were disappointed at, because even though they won, obviously it wasn't a clean game. We all know that. I think there were some surprises. I'll be honest with you. I can't believe Matt Ryan only threw the ball 35 times. I'm shocked. Usually I thought he would throw about 50. So a lot of things happened in this game. Nick Sirianni, listen, man, I'll tell you what. He showed a little spunk to me. I thought he was the kid who got beat up for his lunch money in school, but he came out and he actually looked pretty good. He was getting violent on the sidelines. I don't know what's going on with that pen thing in his head. I think he's got to get rid of that. But between him and Bruce Arians with the big heart attack backpack on his chest, I don't know what they're going for there. But one thing's for sure, this was a great game and a good day that finally, not to steal his thunder, I know me and him don't agree a lot, but the Philly pod, he mentioned football is fun again. And I'll tell you what, I'll be honest with you. I kind of agree today. Football was fun again for the Philadelphia Eagles. So we got a little Hollywood Squares thing going on here. So we're going to go around the chain. We're going to go up and down and around. I go right above me to Mark, my man Mark Drumheller. As always, X.Drumheller, you name it. Mark, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Doing fantastic. I mean, listen, the Eagles are undefeated, right? We start hot this season, so couldn't be happier. Won my wagers on the Eagles. It was a game where I thought that they could win. They were live in that spot, and it wasn't just that they won; it was how they won. And I think the most important thing with this game was they played sound on both sides of the ball, and that was something we didn't see a lot of last year. There were a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, one of the things, it was really good to see, in my opinion, the poise and the composure of Jalen Hurts. One thing you could tell. I mean, listen, I got his stats just so everybody can see them. I know we all know what they are, but 27-35. I mean, that's a clean game to me. Mm-hmm. Some of his passes looked a little different, but he looked comfortable. One thing, Mark, I think you'll agree with, and I think everybody will agree with, one thing that we can never doubt was that he's faced adversity before. He's a professional. He's mature. He knows how to run a team. And that's what he showed today. He showed that, listen, you may not anoint me the starter. I waited however long. They finally said he was a starter. But today he proved, in my opinion, that he's ready to lead this team, especially this season. Do you agree?
Oh, 100%. And, he has all the intangibles that you want from a quarterback. And I think that's why people gravitate towards him, not only the fans, but the players on the team. Has all the leadership qualities. But today, like I said, very clean game. You talked about it, very efficient, 27 for 35, right? 3 for 3 in the red zone. That was the difference in the game. Eagles 100% in the red zone. Atlanta 0%, right? Not very good. So you had the red zone. They were very efficient. They got the ground game going, very balanced attack, and he didn't make the mistakes, and that's key. He didn't take a lot of sacks. He didn't take unnecessary sacks. He didn't throw interceptions. He just played within the system, trusted his coach, and everything fell into place.
Yeah, right on. He played within the system, and we'll go right below to Andre. Andre said he played within the system, and as much as between me, you, and Al and Half Court Heat, when we talked about the Sixers are playing within the system of Doc Rivers, here we are right now within the system of Nick Sirianni. We've seen kind of what his MO was going to be. If you watch what he did in Indianapolis, not sure how many plays he was calling, but to me, this was a nice play call, or I should say game script with his play calling. I don't know if you agree or not.
No, I agree. You know why I agree? Because I think he stuck to the script. Leading up to this game, I think it was as much about the Eagles winning as about the Atlanta Falcons not even being prepared to play. Like, the way I looked at it was, it's like the first 2 times that they got into the red zone to score field goals, the first thing I said to myself is, when you're playing against a team that you really don't know, you got to score touchdowns, especially if you're home. You don't give up touchdowns for field goals. So I think he literally stuck to the script, got the players involved, because I would be the first to admit, in the beginning, I didn't really understand Nick Sirianni's game plan at first, because I'm like, wait a second, why aren't our tight ends involved? Why, how come we can't get Rager involved? And then you start to look at it, it's like, wait a second, these guys are fresh in the second half, like beyond fresh. The offensive line was explosive. Now, don't get me wrong. They had a lot of problems with the penalties. We all know that. We get it. But at the same time, in regards to Jalen Hurts and the offense, it seems like every practice and every rep and everything they said in the postgame show, you could tell that it actually happened this week leading up to this game. So to me, I don't think that the Atlanta Falcons defense was even ready for this type of explosion. Throughout the game, the Atlanta Falcons was trying to make adjustments to which player to focus on. But everybody was clicking on all cylinders, and it made it very difficult for the Atlanta defense to adjust quick enough. The touchdown that I thought was like the best, obviously, is our Heisman Trophy winner. By the way, that guy. I'm just going to call him the Heisman Trophy winner, number 6. We all know who he is. So I love it because it was his first touchdown, his first NFL catch, and it just set the tone for like the way the game was going to go. I like the way he used Sanders. I thought that maybe he would have used him a little more in the first half, but I see that as a game plan, as the game moved on, I said, okay, now I understand Nick Sirianni's game plan for today. He's clearly going to make some adjustments for next week. And the other thing I noticed was a clear distinction between him and our previous coach. The clear distinction. It wasn't even close. It seems like he was involved. He's like, look, I'm going to take some risks. I want to win, and I want to put I literally want to keep my foot on the gas if we're ahead and score touchdowns compared to field goals. Yep. I mean, 32-6 with 434 yards of offense is for this guy's first start of the year is phenomenal to me. And I think it's just up from here for that guy. I really think Jalen Hurts is just up from here. I
agree, man. I do. One of the biggest things you said, Andre, was sticking to the script, right? Sticking to the script was one of the biggest things that I heard, and I think that's one of the most important things that I can remember, okay? And I can tell you from past experiences, you mentioned about maybe Doug Peterson, and I'll tell you, he never stuck to the script, man. It was like, we're going to run, and then once we're done running, all of a sudden we're going to throw 57 times, right? So that was one of the things I did not see today, which was it was a breath of fresh air, to be honest with you. So Dan, my man Dan, Old School Green, sitting there in the Eagles garb. I like it. What did you think today, Dan? Come on, man. Let us know.
I'm not going to lie. At the beginning, I was nervous. The first two drives Atlanta had, they just marched down our throat. And I'm thinking this defense looks awful. They couldn't stop the run. It wasn't until late in the game they got, sacks, but they did pressure Ryan throughout the game. But here's what I found impressive. I don't want to mention a previous quarterback's name, but every time our quarterback dropped back to throw the ball, I didn't fear for an interception. Whereas every time last year, I was actually shocked on completions. That's how bad it got towards the end of last year. I still think, and maybe you guys can elaborate, I still think he gets off his reads quickly and starts to run. There's a sequence I remember where Gainwell was wide open in the middle of the field, and he had him for like 15 yards, and he decided to run, and then Gainwell kind of like got in his way because he had to come back and block for him. But the bottom line is, I've always looked at Ertz as a guy that's going to be a playmaker. I used the analogy on one of our shows we did together. He's the shooting guard that doesn't have the pure stroke, but will score. He's a scorer. He's a playmaker. So he's going to keep the team in games. And we're going to have those moments where, like, geez, how'd you miss that throw? Like he had Zach Ertz wide open on the bomb, and he underthrew him. It shouldn't even been considered a catch. We got lucky on that. But that could have been a touchdown, if not a play that got us near the goal line. And you can't underthrow that pass. But all the other positive things he did, you take the good with the bad with this kid because he's going to be a playmaker. And that's what you have to. That's what comes out of it for me. That he has composure, he has leadership skills, and he's a playmaker.
Perfectly well said, because I don't think any of us have figured this kid to be perfect, right? I think we're kidding ourselves, and we thought he was going to come in here and just set the world on fire and take us to a Super Bowl. He's learning on the job. 3 games last year that, in my opinion, you can only judge him on were not big enough of a sample size for him to get his feet wet. That was just kind of tiptoeing into the waters. And now he should get a whole season, right? For all those people out there with that stupid Deshaun Watson talk and things of that nature, it was absolutely ridiculous, right? This is his team. So I was glad to see him go out and kind of shut everybody up for at least 1 week. And one thing that, to my opinion, the one thing that stuck out for me is, except for the penalties, but the offensive line played really good. I mean, he did get pressure now and then, right? But he was elusive enough, right? So, Jay, I see you shaking your head, and I think you agree. I mean, everybody talked about this big-time money, spent to Jordan Mailata, which I think could be a steal going forward. But Jason Kelce, man, I'll tell you what. I mean, if he retires right now, we are in trouble. We're going to miss him next year. I can tell you that, because he is an absolute beast.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. But like you alluded to, Jordan Mailata, I mean, he is just a mountain of a guy, and he was putting guys on their butts during this game. I want to give him a huge shout out. Definitely proved that he is worth the money. After the past couple of seasons with Jason Peters at left tackle, I think you can see after this game a huge difference with Mailata at left tackle. And Mailata is young. I mean, this is his first season starting along the Eagles' offensive line. So his whole career is out in front of him. And he got to learn from the past few seasons under Jason Peters, a Hall of Fame left tackle. So he can take those lessons to heart and become an absolutely monster at left tackle. And like you said, with Kelce and Samalu and all those guys along the offensive line, I mean, this is going to be a monster of the offensive line. But one thing I'd like to bring up, too, is I'd like to give Jonathan Gaddon, the Eagles defensive coordinator, a huge shout-out as well. In this league, you can hold the team to just 6 points throughout the entire game, and those 6 points were put up in early in the game in the first quarter, and they scored virtually nothing after that. That's a huge game out of the Eagles defensive coordinator, maximizing his staff along the defensive line and the defensive backfield and everything. And the Eagles were without their starting safety as well in this one too. So huge shout out to Jonathan Gaddon and shutting down Kyle Pitts pretty much the entire game too. when all we heard about after the draft was how great Kyle Pitts was. And I didn't see Kyle Pitts doing all that much damage against the Eagles in this game. So huge shout out to Jonathan Gaddon, the Eagles defensive coordinator.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. And our buddy Rick checking in says, be careful. Atlanta has an awful defense.
Yes.
Although I did like the defensive adjustments after the first series. And listen, I don't think any of us here, 10 of us here right now, think that all of a sudden we're going to pull off 9 in a row, right? That has nothing to do with that. We played Atlanta, who, say what you want, like Jay's saying, they do have some explosive weapons. Calvin Ridley, you held on to 5 catches for 51 yards. Okay, so let's shout out Steve Slay. Okay, listen, I'm telling you, he was broken my heart today because Calvin Ridley, I thought was going to have a huge day. I'm glad he didn't, but it does make me look a little stupid tonight when I go on Sirius satellite radio. That's okay. I'll take that because it's a Phillies win. Okay, I mean a Philadelphia win. No, it's all good. It's all good. But my man Chris, listen, I got to ask you, man, because I know you were already on a post game earlier. Now you're on this post game. You do it's all over. But what do you take away from this game as far as today and looking forward?
Well, the number one thing is coaching. I think Nick Sirianni kept it simple, stupid. I think that's the number one thing at the end of the day. We saw like Quez Watkins' screenplay that worked right off the bat. Guess what? They went back to it. We haven't seen that since I think I've watched the Eagles, honestly. Going back to a play that actually worked, and then all of a sudden we went back to it, got another 10 yards, and then they had to stop it, and then we readjusted. And Jalen Hurts at the end of the day was fantastic. I loved him for his pass rushing yards over. I believe it was a 296, 298. It went over. I know you're a prop man yourself, Tony, and that went over. I absolutely loved it. I think I saw it on the article. Once I saw my play with your play, I was like, this is money. I'm doubling up, no question. But I was really excited to see that. Jalen Hurts, I wasn't real big. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't the biggest supporter of Jalen Hurts at the beginning because he has so much talent at Alabama, Oklahoma, all that stuff. But he is getting to his own. The rushing, he took the offense in charge with the read options. He decided to run the ball a bunch, and they weren't expecting it. And I think that was really great. And also on the defensive side, we talked about Jim Schwartz being the coordinator before. He had that white picket defense, which was absolutely garbage, where they kept getting pushed back and forth, and he thought he could just like be good with it. But this defense didn't break at the end of the day, and they made sure of it. I loved that Brandon Graham, that monster hit on that first down.
I'm glad you brought that up, man.
That was football, and I absolutely loved it. He drilled him, and the defense came out to play. I was super excited about it. Zero expectations, I'm not going to lie, but I'm feeling pretty high. This is the highest I've felt in a long time for the Eagles. I'll ride it out. I don't think it's no Super Bowl or anything, but I'm enjoying the ride right now for sure.
Nothing wrong with that, man. That's what it's all about. It's about enjoying the ride. We have to enjoy the ride. And Vance, Vance, but it goes for a couple months. It's good, man. Every time. I get it, man. We need breaks, which is great. Hope all is well. Glad to see his face right here, Heat Ratio Live. So, Vance, what do you take away? I know you're a very opinionated guy, and I respect the hell out of your opinion. So what are you thinking right now today for this Eagles team?
So, Tony, you kind of stole my thunder in the beginning. Last year watching this team, we didn't have much fun. I know that I didn't. And today, I had a lot of fun watching this team. It reminded me of like being in high school when you're watching the seniors graduate and you're with your boys and you're like, next year, we're going to go out and do our thing. And that's what it was like today. You had a bunch of young guys out there that didn't know any better, just running around making plays. One of the things that stood out to me today was about Sirianni and his play calling was, trying to get the ball in the hands of his playmakers. Chris brought it up just a minute ago. They ran the same play 3 times, and it was literally a long handoff. And, you see it all the time in this league. Patrick Mahomes isn't making 70-yard throws every play. It's about getting the ball in the hands of your playmakers and letting them make plays for you. And that's one of the things that I was impressed with today. The other thing is, as Dan mentioned earlier, not to say anything negative about our former quarterback, but isn't it nice to have a quarterback that could throw the ball in stride?
It is a wonderful thing, man. It really is.
A guy in stride where a guy is not turning around, stopping his momentum to catch the ball behind him, or leaning a little too forward. So I thought that was great to see. I think the defense, they started out slow, But it was clear towards the end of the game that they had wore that offense down, and they made plays at the end of the game when they needed to. But it was a great victory for the Eagles today. Like I said on Twitter, I didn't know what to expect, but this is like Christmas in September to me, and I think that there's a lot to build off coming out of this game today and going into. I think what do they play? San Francisco next week. Yeah, there's definitely a lot to build off. I think that. There's a lot of things that we still haven't seen from this offense yet that they're capable of, and I love what I saw today.
Listen, I completely agree. I do. And one thing all preseason I know I was talking about, a lot of people were talking about, was we didn't, we weren't, I should say, we were never saying that we didn't have the weapons. We understood we had the weaponry. It was how can we utilize it in the right context, right? And that was, can Sirianni put it together? And I'll tell you, he broke off the first, maybe that's what you're alluding to, and you and Chris, those first 2 or 3 plays of Quez Watkins was like the same exact play, but it worked, right? Why if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? And I loved that he was able to get his young quarterback settled down. He didn't take shots down the field right away. He kept it simple. He kept it efficient. Let this guy, I hate to say it, I know he said it for years, but put your guy in the best position to make plays. And a la Andy Reid, but that's exactly what Sirianni did for Jalen Hurts. And I think that was so huge. So huge. Don't have this kid come out running for 150 yards like Lamar Jackson. Don't have him come out throwing the ball bombs away 40 yards down the field. Tuck it in, be respectful to the scheme, and take the best shot available. Now, Al, listen, man, I know you're a very loud and unspoken dude, right? I get it. I know you were probably happy here. I know you, listen, 32-6, a lot to get happy about. So what are you taking away from this game?
First of all, I want to make sure everybody knows this is the first game. Okay? This is the first game. So everybody relax. I know it's a good game. All right, but this is the first game. All right, 2, I'm a stats guy. Stats is huge to me, and 0 turnovers is at the top of my page. 0 turnovers. That's huge for a young team. You can get down very quickly on yourself if you causing turnovers, fumble here, interception here. All of those type of things happen and can bring you down real quickly. And now that high can come very, very low with turnovers. 136 yards passing. That's what it was for Atlanta. 136 yards passing. That's huge. You don't expect that to happen with Matty Ice. And then, oh my God, I couldn't believe this when I seen it. 35 passes, 31 runs.
What's that? We're not used to that.
No, that doesn't happen with us. Doug likes to just fly it a million times, throw it as much as he can. Forget even Sanders is even back there. And then you guys said he moved the ball around. He got it to everybody. And how long we've been screaming about get it to your playmakers. Even if they're not even you have people, at least get them the ball and see what they can do. You're not even trying to get it to everybody. You just say, all right, I got Zach Ertz. Let me just throw it to him a million times. And my last point, I've been trying to tell you guys this, Reagor 6 for 49 for a touchdown. I only been telling you guys he can play, but you guys been crushing me for a whole season that he can't play. And I've been telling you the kid can ball. He just got to, obviously, now you got a coach that got some confidence in him, and he's going to play. And I think him and Smith are going to have a huge season.
Listen, I never said they couldn't play, right? I said I never say he couldn't play. The problem is he came off popping off on social media like he's been playing for 25 years, and he ain't done squat. Right. So that's the issue. So right away, he's taking offense. He came in. I understand he had some issues, but he comes into camp out of shape. Last year, he couldn't learn the playbook. You're the number 1 pick, dude. If you don't learn the playbook, you better be ready. You better ready to take the heat from the Philadelphia media, from the Philadelphia fan base. That's what you need to do. So, but I get it. I agree that, especially that screenplay, it was kind of like a bubble screen, but a little quick out. That's what you need to do with Jalen Reagor, right? He's not going to be a guy that runs that 40-yard bomb. That's not him. It's not who he is. He's a guy that makes plays in space. So you got to get him in space. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think that was the issue. I think we've all alluded to that, where, guys have to be put in their proper positions. And it looks like, and I know it's only week 1. I get it. But what we were accustomed to and what we've seen, this is a breath of fresh air. Now, I saved the best for Lance. I got the two irrational Philly fans for us right here. We'll go right to Nicky Nuts first, then we're gonna get to Mikey Googs. Nick looks like he's on top of a chandelier from a scene of Old School right now. Okay, I might start calling him Blue. I'm not sure, but Nick, what's going on, buddy? What do you think here, man?
Yo, for one, we have the best Penn State running back in the league right now. I'm saying that's facetious. I'm totally. We're also number 1 in the division right now, and you know what? I think Nick shortened the playbook, and I think he played to a lot of their strengths. One, there was no interceptions by Ertz, which is huge. I mean, we went from Carson Wentz that threw an interception every other down to 0. And let's not be crazy, though. Atlanta sucks. They're a terrible football team, and we shouldn't get too excited about that. But a win is a win, and in this league, a win is everything. That's what makes the difference between getting to the playoffs and just being another team in the league. So I have high hopes for this team this year, but I'm not getting crazy though. I mean, we still have a lot of football to go. And
hey, listen,
the defense actually changed the way they were playing right in the first quarter, which you never saw that from Doug Peterson. They never changed their game plan in middle of the first quarter. They changed it, and they had no answers for that defense whatsoever after that, which is great coaching. It's nice to actually see great coaching for once.
Are you trying to say, and I bring Googs in right with this, are you trying to say you were not happy with Jim Schwartz? Is that what you're saying?
No, I couldn't stand that. I couldn't stand his defense. It was mind-numbing. Literally, you're just sitting there, just blitz, just once. I mean, we actually had a run blitz today, which was phenomenal. I mean, we actually had a run blitz that just completely destroyed anybody. It was great. It was good to see. I loved it.
Yeah, it really was. And speaking of defense, Mike, bring my man Mikey Googs in here. And I know Jim Schwartz is here no more, and I know you're happy about that. But overall, buddy, what are you thinking today?
I mean, everybody just hit it, right? I'm just going to summarize because I'm not going to bring anything to the table that not everybody here already mentioned, a point or two, but think about it. A lot of things that we haven't seen. Adjustments. When's the last time you've seen an adjustment? They go in, they do what they're supposed to make adjustments, but for whatever reason, Schwartz never did, and the Eagles never did. That's just what we've been accustomed to. Screenplays. Start thinking about Westbrook when I start seeing those screenplays being ran and Shady Days. Think about that. Sort of brought me back. They kept their foot on the gas. Someone else brought that up. They did not take their foot off the gas. Defensive adjustments, multiple sack games. I mean, when's the last time we've seen that? And how about energy? Buzz. Nobody knew what to expect, and we're all sitting there. And my wife kept saying, is everything going on? Everything okay down there? You're not yelling or screaming? Because honestly, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what I was looking at. It looks like an entire new breed of coaching. I know Atlanta sucks. Their secondary's horrible. They put three guys back there that have never been there before, I'm pretty sure, right? So I read that before the game. I don't even know if that's true or not. I know they just band-aided their secondary, I think. But kind of like uncharted waters, right? Because by the second half, I'm like, this is like a total new feeling. It was like, remember that moment that we all got to be happy when Chip Kelly pretty much blew out the Redskins and we're all like, wow, this is great. I sort of kind of felt like that during the second half. But seeing Jalen Reagor play and seeing him get into positions where he can actually do something was surprising. Thinking that we might have a number 1 receiver. Think about that. A number 1 option.
Yes.
Seeing the RPO ran the way that it's probably supposed to be ran. And then no turnovers. I mean, at that point, I didn't watch any more football. I just shut the TV off because I don't want anything else to happen. I don't want to see anything. I'm done. I don't even want to talk about football until next week. I mean, everything hit on every cylinder. And normally I would say that I am pessimistic by nature, and I'm usually trashing somebody from the Eagles, but Bravo, man. It looks like whatever they did, they're at least on the right path. Now, I don't know what's going to happen next week or the rest, but that's a hell of a way to start the season, I think, right?
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned RPO, and that's one of the most important things that nobody touched on. And I know I heard it, and we didn't touch on it here. You just did, and we know that works if it's run properly, right? And it was ran properly. And again, maybe Nick Sirianni's not the best public speaker, right? I know, like me and you go,
oh no, he's great. He's fantastic. He's the best. His press conference was amazing. Poor guy. He was probably just really nervous, and nobody trashed him more than me. You know that. We both did.
No, we didn't let him live, man. It is, but again, it was like, we came from Doug, who was a dope, and then we got this guy. We're expecting, like, all right, give me a little more pizzazz, a little more energy. And listen, it was all coach speak, right? It was all coach speak. So the one good thing, though, that I will say is this is a very, very young coaching staff. I think it is the youngest in the NFL. And I know, Jay, I'll come back to you for a minute. You talked about Jonathan Gaddon. And again, very, very young defensive coordinator. And sometimes, and I know me and Goose have talked to us about this before, but we talk about some of those great defensive coordinators in the past, guys like Wade Phillips, who were they are defensive coordinators, right? And when you get a guy, sometimes when you consistently retread the same personalities, you don't always get the same results. And I think it was nice for them to get a guy like Gaddon, let's see if you agree, to get maybe a different breed, different philosophy, and some new energy into the NFL.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree, Tone. And I think this goes to the entire team as well. There's a renewed energy. You see it in Sirianni, the way he runs a practice, the way he talks after the game. I mean, you guys were kind of bringing it up. I mean, he said during his press conference after the game that he now has this handshake he does with Jalen Hurts and his young son, that the three of them share the same handshake. And the one thing about Sirianni, too, is he's brutally when a member of the press corps asks him a question, he gives you a lot more than any other head coach will ever give you during that same press conference in his answer. He'll go in depth as much as he can, and that breeds a lot of cohesion among the team and has players buying in because he doesn't pretend to be somebody he's not. He's just an overall energetic guy. In the same way with Jonathan Gaddon, he's another energetic young head coach or young assistant coach on the team, the defensive coordinator. And they got this youthful exuberance about themselves that breeds down into the players and makes the players want to play for them. I love the coaching staff right now. I think it's new, it's energetic, it's great. It has the players buying in. And if you can get the players buying in and put them in positions to win, it's going to be a successful season.
No, I completely agree. And one of the things I really enjoyed, and I'm going to go right back to my man Drum, is talking about the rushing yards. And for a total 173 rushing yards, and that includes Jalen Hurts' number. But the way they utilize their running backs, Mark, I mean, we've talked about this before, right? I think we could kind of say that Jordan Howard's probably done, but you're talking about three guys essentially in Sanders, Gainwell, and when they want to throw Boston Scott in there, it emulates exactly what Indianapolis did last year, right? When you think about Nyheim Hines and Jordan Wilkins and Marlon Mack, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, Drum, do you see this continuing the same route going forward?
I do. I think it has to, right? And I'm not here to beat up on any, the Eagles running backs, but I think the reason they drafted Gainwell was because there are some limitations with Sanders and coming out of the backfield and doing some of the things that I think Sirianni wants to implement into the offense, right? But it does give you a diverse backfield, and I think that you kind of need that in today's NFL. That was the hardest part, I feel like, for the Eagles last year. We can point the finger at the coaching staff all we want, but they had this makeshift offensive line. What we saw today was not the offensive line we saw last year, was not the quarterback we saw last year. We have a number one receiver now. So it is a completely different offense in a lot of ways. And I think that that's part of how coming into the season, it was so exciting because it was almost like we still had that core in the trenches and we have them healthy now that gave us so much hope 2 seasons ago, before things started going downhill. So I think, it does start with the running game. And listen, offensively, they did phenomenal. They called a great game. 6.4 yards per play, right? Just to put that in perspective, the Houston led the NFL with 6.3 yards per play last year. A lot of that's because they were playing from behind, but 6.4 is a big number. Offensively, they were great. They outgained Atlanta by like 174 yards. So everything went well offensively, but we're going to see really what this offense can do and how it can adjust in the coming weeks when they're playing San Francisco, they're playing Tampa, they're playing some really ferocious defenses. And I think that's the key. But it all starts up front with the offensive line. The fact that those guys are healthy, they have that, and they can kind of dominate with start with the running game. It's going to take pressure off Ertz. That's going to help, the entire offense. And so I really think that that's the key for the season, keeping those guys healthy up front.
Yeah, no, I completely agree because we've gone through our share of human turnstiles at the offensive line. Let's not get back to that, right? Let's get some cohesion there and can continue to build. And I know one of the stats I heard, I think it was ESP on WIP, who mentioned that this is the first time the Eagles have scored more than 30 points in a game since like 2017. Which is unbelievable. All right. Unbelievable. Dan, I know you're a stat guy, and I'm not going to put you on the spot with stats, but I mean, I don't know if you knew that. I know I didn't know that, but what is that? I mean, 32 points. I don't think that's a big number. Is that just attributing how bad we have been over the last like 2.5 to 3 years? I mean, it seems like that shouldn't be a bad number to get to. 32 points or 30 plus points. And we haven't hit that in 4 years? That's insane to me. I was shocked.
No, it's attributed to how bad they have been the past post Super Bowl years. I hate the apologists that say we made the playoffs 2 out of the past 3 years. They squeaked in a crappy division. They've been a crappy team for the past 3 years. Let's call it what it is. So yeah. By accident, I would have thought they would have had 30 points somewhere along the road. So it is a stat I'm unfamiliar with. So it is actually shocking, but it's also gratifying to see that perhaps we're going in a different direction. But real quick, I have to build on something that Mikey said and Nikki said. I think Al said it. Adjustments. Early in the first half, they had the Falcons had 105 rushing yards. They finished the game with 126 rushing yards.
Wow.
Okay. They almost had 10 minutes more time of possession. We outpossessed them big time by the end of the game. And I believe Al said this, 134 total passing yards. So you could say, all right, they got behind. That's why the rushing yards total drop, but it wasn't like they were lighting up by throwing. They weren't lighting up the stats by throwing the ball either. The Eagles defense under Jonathan Gaddon made the adjustments. That's what concerned me about this game. Calvin Ridley and Pitts had a combined total of 9 for 82 combined. I expected each one of them to have a stat line like that with a touchdown or two mixed in. So I wasn't concerned about the offense. I knew that Jalen Hurts is a playmaker. We have young weapons that I think they just have this natural chemistry. I was concerned about the defense. And my concerns started off being correct, but adjustments. Mikey said it. Have you ever seen this team make adjustments? No, but if you when you have 105 yards in the first quarter, that rammed down your throat, and then they only finished with 124, you made adjustments.
I completely.
That was impressive. That was impressive.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I thank you for those stats because I didn't know that. I mean, talk about 105 to 100. That's only 26 more yards. I mean, that's insane. That is a great job. And Vance, I'll tell you what, this to me was a really good test because Mike Davis, no matter what anybody thinks, the thing I like about Mike Davis is he can do it all. He's a scat back, right? He's going to run for power. He's going to come out in the wheel routes. He's going to come out in the screen game. He does a lot. So I know I mentioned earlier, a couple days ago, talking about the linebackers have always had issues with running backs that can come out of the backfield in the passing game. And I think this was a huge test for them today because going forward, they're going to face a lot of these kind of weapons, especially in the first 5 or 6 games of the year. So what does that tell you? Do you think it's more of a scheme? Was it more of the way the linebackers were able to stay home and zone it out? Or do you think it was the pressure that the defensive line was able to put on Matty Ice and that offensive line?
I think it was a little bit of everything, Tony. I think that, Eric Wilson, the linebacker that the Eagles went out and got from Minnesota, this is part of the reason why they went out and got him. He's great in coverage. He's not so good against the run, but he's great in coverage. Also, I think Arthur Smith coming from Tennessee kind of played a little bit into the Eagles. He played into their hands a little bit, I think, by running the football with Mike Davis. I think they did too much running. I think they ran the ball almost 30 times as well, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that played into the Eagles' hands. I think they would have done they would have been better off or better served attacking the Eagles through the air, which I believe Matt Ryan only do the ball 35 times. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was surprised that Atlanta did what they did when I felt like they didn't necessarily have a clear advantage in the air against the Eagles, but they have playmakers on offense. They have Calvin Ridley, and they have, Russell Gage is a pretty good player, as well as Kyle Pitts. I felt like that was where their bread was butter, and they kind of let the Eagles off the hook a little bit.
I completely agree with that. Seriously, not to sound cliche, but I because I keep agreeing with all you guys because it's exactly what I've seen. I mean, you look at the target distribution for the Atlanta Falcons, and the number 2 receiver on this team is Russell Gage, and he's going to get a lot of open looks just indirectly because Calvin Ridley is that good. He commands that much attention, and he only had 2 targets. Okay, so you're talking about a combined target ratio for Ridley and Pitts of 16, and Russell Gage only had 2. To me, honestly, that tells you that he just wasn't open. And I know Darius Slay was able to lock down Calvin Ridley. Again, the essential number 1 receiver we talk about in fantasy football. A lot of people are talking about that. And we've seen this guy had 90-plus targets last year, 90-plus catches, even with Julio Jones on the team. So now he's taking it to be the heir apparent. But I'll tell you what, man, that just means these guys weren't getting open. And that is a big deal. That's a big deal. That just means, hey, Chris, I'll come back to you. That means it's the scheme again. It was, again, they schemed this team right because, listen, I know right off the bat, a lot of it, we seen Ridley. It was Ridley. I think he had 3 catches in the first 7 minutes. And I was like, oh, here we go. I mean, I was happy in a sense for the fantasy aspect, but I was like, here we go. He's going to run all over. Then they made a huge adjustment. He only had 2 catches for the rest of the game. So, Chris, what do you think that says for this, receiving core of Atlanta as opposed to the defense for the Philadelphia Eagles?
I think there was a lot of mistakes at the end of the day for the Falcons offense. We saw a lot of offensive PIs that happened all day.
Yeah.
I mean, Ridley had a couple of them, and they looked like they had positive plays, and they were making mental mistakes constantly. But you know what the beauty of everything is, which I'm glad no one touched upon, so I can bring it up. Pretty much Devontae Smith, what a great route runner he is. Like, seriously, I don't want to compare him to Marvin Harrison, but he was smooth. I'm just saying, Marvin Harrison was that kind of guy. You never saw him dive for balls, this and that. He always ran smooth routes. You never saw him lunge for balls. Devontae Smith was running smooth routes, and that was really refreshing for me because I don't think I've ever seen that with the Eagles ever. And I think that was a really good spot, and I'm glad we moved up to get that kind of caliber player. Sometimes these players in college kind of play over their head in college, and then they get to the pros and they have a lot of problems. But the good thing I saw with him during the offseason, he was super focused. He did not look happy. Everyone's like, oh, he doesn't like being in Philadelphia. The dude's just locked in, and I absolutely love it. He runs absolutely great routes. I love the fact that Jalen Hurts has a lot of familiarity with him. So that also helps because he was targeting him a whole lot today. Yeah, that's what it really comes down to. The scheme was great, and Jay brought up the actual coaching. Guys are buying in. This is a young group. It's kind of a college feel, I know these guys are professionals. They make tons and tons of money. You can't really talk to these guys that much, but you even talk to the veterans like Zach Ertz and Fletcher Cox. They're like, oh man, we're really buying into this. And that says a lot about the coaching staff at the end of the day. And yes, one win does help. Everything's gravy. You're 1-0 at the end of the day. But you know what? it doesn't seem like he's BSing that much with Nick Sirianni. And you know what? I think he holds everybody accountable, and I think that's important. And let's see where it goes.
I agree. Accountability is huge. 100%. Accountability is huge. And again, listen, I don't think I expect a guy like Fletcher Cox to be like, yeah, this coach sucks. We're not listening to him. You know what I mean? Like a lot of that, but I think you could take mannerisms, right? You could take, and Andre, I'm going to come back to you because I know you're a mannerism guy and you understand what I'm talking about. You can take these mental factions and say, you know what, this dude's kind of speaking through the heart or he's really not being authentic. But I want to ask you, Chris touched on Devontae Smith, and the biggest thing about Devontae Smith was always we kept hearing about his size. He's not going to be big enough, and a guy we always used to hear about that was with Deshaun Jackson. When we drafted Deshaun Jackson, it was like, this guy's not big enough. He's going to get killed through the middle. He's going to get killed through the middle. He's going to get blown up. But I think, again, Andre, this comes to this scheme again to where a lot of his catches were on the outside because, like Chris said, he is a huge route runner. Do you expect Mr. Devontae Smith, obviously he's going to have, he's going to have ups and downs. I get it, right? Because he is a rookie. But you got to admit, right, for a confidence standpoint, this has got to be a huge game for him.
No, it's major. I mean, the guy caught 6 passes for like 71 yards. So here's the whole, since we're talking scheme, it's interesting how we could talk scheme on offense, but the scheme on defense was just as important. But since we're going to start with Devontae Smith, and it's the point that I made earlier in the first comment when I said it's interesting that they have all these weapons and they had to account for everybody. They had to account for everybody with the exception of the one time Ertz was out, obviously with a hamstring or some type of leg injury, right, for X amount of minutes. But then he came back in and tried to make a couple plays on offense. But Devontae Smith, his route running is what they call, especially for a guy his size, is called low center gravity route running, meaning he's not a stand-up runner. So he can cut easier the closer he is to the ground. Now, most D-backs in the league right now are maybe taller than him, and he can lose them with just a quick shake or shimmer just to get open. The sky's the limit for him. He literally, I loved his press conference when he said, look, it's repetition. And he kind of stayed on that same theme about we just practice this, so I was comfortable. And when he said that, and it wasn't until he said that is when I actually thought about it. I said, you know what? This guy is locked in for the season. Now, the great thing, and Chris brought this up when he talked about Fletcher Cox, we're dealing with a bunch of young players that are mixed in with Super Bowl winners. So it's not just a buy-in from the coaching staff. You got to get the buy-in from some of the veterans because the young players are coming in like, this guy's on his way out. Let me see what I can do. And you don't see any of that so far. I know it's game one. And I totally get it with Devontae Smith being arguably our number one. The reason I say argue because it's only one game, or arguably our number one receiver. So that's the scheme that I think that the Eagles moving forward is going to continue with. Now, on the defensive side, we really do have to be careful about how we schemed because someone mentioned for our following team, because someone mentioned adjustments. Well, I think the biggest adjustment is going to be in the locker room after this game. It's like, okay, to use a basketball analogy, we just scored, but we got to get back on defense. We just scored. We can't let up because we're dealing with, if we're going to make an adjustment, we got to make almost an entire defensive adjustment for the game we're about to play. Because we're dealing with a more mobile quarterback, and we're dealing, in my opinion, we're dealing with a much better receiver because this guy had Samuels had 189 yards today for San Francisco. Receive it. Now, Jimmy G threw for about 314, but almost 200 went to one guy. So some of those things you got to think about too. And Mark brought up San Fran's defense. Well, San Fran did give up 33 points today to abysmal Detroit. And so there's going to be a lot of adjustments that's going to need to be made. And the offensive line, our offensive line today, yes, they had multiple penalties, but 4 or 5 of those penalties was because they were extra aggressive. I'm not making excuses for them, and I know, but I'm glad we have something that they can go back and look at and adjust because everyone's excited about the win. And usually when a big win like this, you don't really, with 0 turnovers, not many drops, the whole 9, you really don't have anything to go over. So I'm glad they made some of those mistakes. But if you was looking at the game, a lot of those mistakes were just because they were extremely aggressive, literally blowing and blasting off the ball. Personal foul, holding, things like that. But the game was in hand by then. So, Smith is the guy. He is as good as advertised.
Yeah, he is. He's smooth, like you're saying. He is. He's silky smooth, man. I mean, it's not. It's always nice when you get a crisp route runner, because throughout NFL history, I know Chris mentioned Marvin Harrison. There's been so many of these smooth route runners, right? That are so good. One of the guys that doesn't get enough credit, I know he's a little older right now, but Emmanuel Sanders is one of the smoothest route runners in the game. He really is. So if you watch him, oh man, I'll tell you what, he can really blow up a playbook. It's amazing. But this is what we're going to do. We're about 50 minutes because, again, listen, we're happy right now. We are. And I think we all could keep going and going and going and be so happy about this win. But like Al alluded to, relax, everybody pump the brakes. So what we're going to do is we got 10 of us in here. We're going to go around to a little final thoughts and talk about whether it's something that surprised you in this game, something you want to say, and something looking ahead. We're looking ahead to San Francisco. Let's go with one thing. And hey, listen, if it's repetitive, it doesn't matter. There are 10 of us, and we are pretty intelligent when it comes to breaking down sports. So we may be on the same page, but that's okay. We all have different voices. So let's look. I'll start with Al, and we talk about your final thoughts for this game, maybe one thing that kind of surprised you, and looking forward to San Francisco. What's the one thing that either worries you, one thing you expect? What are you thinking going ahead when we talk about Jimmy G and the San Francisco 49ers?
First thing to come to mind is exactly what Dre just said. They gave up how much to Detroit? Detroit?
And Jared Goff.
Right, stop it. So that's I'm actually happy about that. Them coming back actually makes me happy, because they were up by 20 plus in the first half, and I was like, wow, that game is over. 2, oh my goodness, can you imagine if we win next week and then Monday night Dallas Cowboys 2-0? This city gonna go crazy. They're gonna think we're going to the Super Bowl. They're gonna go. Everybody's gonna run out in the streets. I mean, and it's surprise was just I don't know. It really wasn't too many surprises, because I figured that our D line was going to do what they was going to do, because Atlanta's O line was not that good. So I think just Jalen Hurts playing, keeping the offense in control. He had one bad series. I think the whole game, as much as I saw. So I think just he was a good surprise. So consistency is going to be his thing. That's it.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right ahead. Is consistency, right? How much consistency can we get from Jalen Hurts? And go right back to Mark right next to you here, and talking about Mark looking ahead to now. What do you got, brother? Final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, they have to do the same thing they did today, right? And it's going to be a little difficult as the strength of schedule gets better, but don't let, listen, Atlanta's a weak defense, right? And all these things went well around Jalen Hurts, but don't let that take away from the fact that he did his job. He did what he was asked to do today. He was extremely efficient, did not turn the ball over, did not take sacks, and that is huge. And listen, it is very hard to coach a football team when your quarterback is fumbling and taking sacks. The genius Frank Reich is finding that out. He found that out today. Indianapolis Colts look very poor on offense with Carson Wentz. So I think this makes a world of difference. This is a huge thing for the Eagles. If he can just play within the system, let the players around him, let the offensive line do their job, let your rookie wide receiver, who's could be one of the best route runners in the league, do his job. We saw the impact that a guy like Devonta Smith, a good route runner, can have on an offense last year with Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. Just opens up everything. We could see the same thing here in Philadelphia, but just don't try and do too much if you're Jalen Hurts. Just play within the system, be efficient, and don't make mistakes.
I like perfectly said. Right, be efficient and don't make mistakes. All right, and I think that's a common theme. Dan, going to you, man. Final thoughts, looking ahead. What you got, brother?
Well, the common theme is we beat a bad team. We destroyed a bad team.
Yes.
and we were, quote, a bad team. So we did what we're supposed to do. They have a bad defense, but their offense is not abysmal. Matt Ryan is a professional quarterback. Pitts is a stud.
Yes.
Ridley is a stud. Patterson is a playmaker, and he was showing his skill early in the game. So next week, I'm concerned about Kittle. Andre already mentioned Samuels. Ayuk wasn't even a factor in today's game, shockingly, but they're high on Sherfield as well. So they have some talent, but I think Ryan's a better passer than Garoppolo. I'm not a Jimmy G fan. So, the Lions were only they sacked the Lions 3 times. The vaunted Niners defense. We have a much better offensive line. I mean, they have Vitae on their line, for crying out loud. So we have a much better line than the Lions. And, if you told me that we're only going to get sacked 3 times next week, I'll take it. So there's building. This game can only lead to building blocks. Am I concerned about next week? Of course. We'll be underdogs at home, but hopefully this is a building block type of game that will just build their confidence. And every year there's teams that surprise you. No one's talked about the Eagles in our division. Maybe now they will.
I like it. I like it. Googs, what do you got, buddy?
Eagles plus 4.5 already on the line, I saw.
Yes.
Pretty generous, huh?
I like it.
Final thoughts would be this. There's really not much that we can say that we didn't like. I mean, we're nitpicking here. We're finding some things. Dan's right. We smoked a bad team. But we didn't know if we were good or bad. So we're pretty much happy with that, right? We're very happy with what we saw today. But I would say final thought would be this. And God forbid, I'm not saying that this is going to happen. But if they lose, is everybody rah, rah, rah? If Nick Sirianni comes out and does the things that he's going to do, he's going to make mistakes. This coaching team, the coaching staff will lose games. They're going to screw up. Got a lot of young players out there. Things are going to happen. Today, everything was firing on all cylinders. Just can't wait to the press conference next week and the follow-up show next week. I don't want them to lose, but I'm curious on how everybody's going to react when we do lose, if we lose. I'm not saying we will or we won't. I mean, there's probably a good chance we're going to lose a game this year, right? But right now, everybody's flying high. It's just sort of like Al said, right? Just, curb your enthusiasm a bit. Well, it's nice to enjoy the win, but I do have to wonder what we would all be saying if it was the other way around and we got blown out by the Falcons. It would be like fire Sirianni, get rid of them all. Kelsey should have retired. He stinks. I would have went crazy. Most of us would have been pretty upset. So I'm not saying, I hope that doesn't happen. I'm really happy, and I think we all made some great points. It was definitely wonderful talking to all you guys. You guys all brought really good points, and you guys are all professionals at what you do, and just happy to be here to discuss this with you guys. But I do want to see what happens when we lose one. I want to see Dan get fired up. I want to see Vance go crazy. I know Al will go nuts. It'll be fun.
Well, let's not hope we see that yet, right? So
if they lose, lose to a good team or lose because, it just didn't work out. I mean, don't, if it was a blowout and it was like Atlanta right now, wow, could you imagine? Would not be good.
We'd be overturning cars.
Our schedule looks good. We look good. It's going to be a little bit of a tougher division, but I think they're going to, Tony, you mentioned a point earlier. You said, look, they're going to score a lot of points. They're going to lose some games. We get it, but you can't do anything better than what they did today.
No, they started off on the right foot, and that's all we can ask, right? All we can ask, and Chris, here's the thing, man. You talked about efficiency, you talked about the receipt, you talked about a lot, right? But going forward, what's your final thoughts now and going forward to the San Francisco game?
I think at the end of the day, speed is very important. This is something Peterson hasn't really addressed often. We saw right off the bat with Quez Watkins. He went right to the speed. He wants to make sure that we have 3 wide out and we're flying. Zach Ertz, he had 2 catches today. One of them, he's known for not getting his yak. He fell right down to the ground immediately. That's not what they're a part of right now. This is speed, and he wants it now, and he understands that. And I think that's very important. And as Mikey Goose came up, a 4.5-point dogs. I'm just looking on ESPN just in general because I wanted to see that line, what it is right now. I'm seeing 3 with San Francisco, over under 48. A little low, but you know what? I'll tell you what. As long as this offense is clicking in the right direction with the speed and everything that's going, they gave a lot of points to the Lions. I was shocked how many points they gave up to him. Jared Goff is not a sling it kind of quarterback. He's a play action kind of quarterback. I like Ertz in this spot. I mean, this could be another spot we actually win right here. But, pump the brakes a little bit. We're all excited about the first win. The defense was, doing the right things at the right time. That might not happen all the time, but overall, it was pretty good. There was no AOC with San Francisco. That was pretty irrelevant, which I thought who actually would have played pretty well. He was pretty much irrelevant, but it was a great showing. The offense is good. I think Sirianni, people are buying into him right now, and I think that's very important to roll into this week.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Let's see what we can do when the competition goes up. Jay, final thoughts. What you're looking for this week? Everything going for what you got, buddy?
All right. Well, everybody, a lot of people on this panel have focused in on the offense. I'm going to take a different tack for my final thoughts on this one. I'm going to focus in a little bit on the defense. I mentioned it earlier. I think it's important with the games the Eagles have on the horizon, not only next week with the 49ers, but looking even further down the line, we got the Kansas City Chiefs coming up and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. So I'd like to see the Eagles get Rodney McLeod back, their starting safety, sooner rather than later. I think he's going to be important. The 49ers also use multiple quarterbacks today, I believe. So I'd like to see what kind of game plan Jonathan Gaddon is going to have for when they put in the rookie quarterback to kind of combat that, see if he throws some foreign looks at the quarterback just to kind of mess with his mind a little bit. And I think what kind of went unmentioned was the fact that Steven Nelson was an underrated maybe signing by the Philadelphia Eagles at cornerback to lend some experience there and also to have Avonte Maddox switch inside to the safety position, position that he plays rather well, which could be key going down the line in getting the Eagles maybe some more sacks, some more 3-and-outs, things like that. Steven Nelson, I think, was an underrated signing, and I think he'll pay dividends as we go through the rest of the season.
I completely agree, and I'm glad you brought that up because especially the Avonte Maddox factor, because we talked about that last year. Last year, he played out of position, and that was one of the biggest problems. Everybody said, oh, what happened to Avonte Maddox? The problem is he wasn't put in the right position, and that's been the cliche statement of this entire show. Put guys in positions to make plays, and now they finally played into his strengths. And look, voila, the guy was productive, right? So it's amazing. It is what happens. And you make a great point about Gaddon because I'll tell you what, Vance, we're going to get to you with your final thoughts. So one thing I think, tell me if you agree or not, my man in San Francisco, listen, Kyle Shanahan, he's no pushover, right? So what I will say is I don't think for 1 second he wasn't looking past Detroit and he was out there with Jimmy G and Trey Lance saying, you know what? I'm going to mess with the heads a little bit of the Philadelphia Eagles. And when they go and watch this film, I need to throw him some different looks out there. And I think, listen, maybe I'm giving him too much credit, but I'm telling you, man, I'm not ashamed to say it. He's a football genius, in my opinion. I think that's why he's so good. So again, final thoughts, Vance, looking for what you got for us.
Here we go. So I think, everybody's excited today, and I think we have a tendency to get a little overboard. Hope that they put up 40 points the next game. I don't think that that's wise. I think you got to keep it simple. You've got a bunch of young players on offense. When it comes to Sirianni, it's Sirianni and Ertz. Get the ball out of your hands. Get the ball out of your hands. Get it into the hands of the playmakers. Make sure that you continue to get out of the pocket and throw the ball away. Live to fight another down. And I think, if they do that, I think Ertz has shown that he's a good enough playmaker to keep them in games. They have at this point, if you look at them, they probably have the best set of skill players that they've had since Macklin, McCoy, and Deshaun Jackson, I would say. They've got speed all over the field. They've got running backs out of the backfield that can catch. They've got guys that can do multiple things. So I think as long as the defense is able to keep them in games, I think they're going to have a chance to win almost every week. So I think, like I said, the goal moving forward has to be to keep it simple. And then as you go on throughout the season, build off of that.
I like it. I do, because that keep it simple, I think, is the common theme of the show. Andre, I wish the Sixers could keep it simple with Ben Simmons, but that's another topic for another day, right? But Andre, final thoughts going forward. What you got for us, man?
First, let's let Al just come back on. But anyway, my final thought is, and Chris brought it up, as far as I still go on scheme. I still think in defensive scheme for this next game, because unlike today, one thing the Eagles did was they dropped down. They dropped the linebacker and to the deep end coverage, because they kind of knew that Matt Ryan wasn't going to run around anyway. So they're going to have to make this adjustment where they're probably going to have the linebacker stay in the box, because the right side linebacker, to be more specific, to stay in the box, because San Fran's running back is, I mean, he rushed for over 100 yards as well. So Chris said it, speed. So this next game, and my final thoughts against the 49ers, is going to be all about speed and balance. Speed and balance. Like our top receiver had 71 yards. Our top running back had 74 yards. And that's a good balance. No one set the world on fire, but it's still balanced. So the other thing is we have to take advantage of San Fran D-backs with our speed, whether it's a screen play out of the backfield, whether it's just sending somebody downfield as a decoy to loosen up that secondary and let the other guys come in and just do what they need to do. But balance and speed is what we have to attack San Fran with.
100%. They are a very talented team on both sides of the ball, right? And it's not indicative of the way they played today. I mean, everybody has good game. It's the first game of the season, right? We're already into a new 7-game season this year. We have players that didn't play at all in the preseason, right? It's really hard to sit there and just say, oh, after week 1, these guys suck, right? I really don't think that's it. So, but no, well said. It's definitely, they have a lot of promise on that team. They haven't even hit their stride, and they're coming into our house. And I'll tell you what, my final thoughts are, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be the optimist here. And I know Vance told me to calm down. I know that but I'm excited, man. I'm excited. And I'll tell you what, the Niners are coming into our house after going to Detroit and basically letting Detroit score at will, okay? And now they're coming to our house and against our offensive line. And the one guy I worry about was Mr. Bosa. The other guy I think you have to worry about is Fred Warner, which is their very, very talented middle linebacker who's going to cover a lot of ground. But I'll tell you what, the offensive side of the ball for San Francisco, I show right now, Brandon Ayuk had bad hamstrings today, so he wasn't very good. Jimmy G, the book is out on Jimmy G. All you need to do is get in the dude's face. That's it. Give him pressure, and he's getting happy feet. He has those Donovan McNabb feet when he's back there, right? We already know this, and unless he's got a porn star sitting in the crowd for him, waiting for him afterwards, he's probably not going to play well. Okay, so that's Jimmy G's MO. We all know that, right? We all know that. So I am not worried. I'm telling you right now, I think that these first 2 games were very winnable. We win today. I think we take care of business next week. We keep it simple, and then the road gets tough, and that's okay. I'm not expecting us to go to a Super Bowl. I'm not expecting us to go to the playoffs. I'm really not. I'm just expecting us to be exciting and fun to watch, and that's exactly what we got today. And I got to finish this with my man Nicky Nuts, because not only do I want Nicky's final thoughts, but I kept him for last because I want an EAGLES Eagles fan at the end, like only Nicky can do. But before you get to that, Nick, I want your final thoughts. Obviously maybe something surprised you looking at how we're to San Francisco, and then hit us out with that Eagles chant. Before you say anything, I want to thank everybody, because we're going to end on Nick. Okay, I want to thank everybody for joining in. We had a lot of people coming in. If I didn't get to your comments, I apologize. We will be here every Sunday at 7:15. Maybe 12 of us, maybe 5 of us, maybe 2 of us. Who knows? knows? Maybe it'll just be Jigsaw. I don't know. Maybe nobody wants to hang with me. Who the hell knows? But one thing's for sure, 715 Heat Ratio Sports, all social formats. You can get us there, comment, have fun, and let's just listen. There's no structure here. We're just having a good time, throwing out our voice, and here for the people. So, Nicky Nuts, take us out, my man. Give us your prediction going forward, what you're looking for, and give us that Eagles chant.
All right, listen, I am optimistic just like you, Tony, because, when you watch this game, I got news for you. Ertz actually missed a lot of passes that could have been possible touchdowns. The Ertz one, he overthrew his first throw. I mean, he left points on the board. Plus, the question in the Eagles game all the time was the secondary's not good enough. They played remarkable today. We got to give them credit. I mean, they held almost the two of the best receivers we're going to probably play in the game. So they held them. And again, their wide receivers, Smith, he cuts like nobody's business. He runs a route like his life depends on it. And it shows because he gets to all those little spots that, not every defender goes there because they don't think he'll ever get the shot. But Ertz puts it right there, drops the dime, and bang. And the defensive line, they pulled their weight. I want Cox to at least get 2 sacks against G. So I think he's going to be running for his life.
Yo, Nick, you want Cox all over Jimmy G, right?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Put Cox on G all day long. As far as the season is going to be concerned, I'm with Vance. Let's pump the brakes, but I'm very optimistic. And at the end, we're all here to have fun. We're all here to watch this awesome team. We're all here to watch great football. And again, let's not forget, we are Philadelphia. And what don't people like? They don't like us. And why don't they like us? Because we're loud, we're proud, and we are the Eagles. E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles!